The conflict between militant black and militant white Africa now focuses on the southwest as South Africa confronts Angola over the future of Namibia. This week, to find out what is happening, TVI went to southern Angola in search of an elusive war. A bush conflict where guerrilla skirmishes are developing fast into open warfare. As an international conflict, it's largely unacknowledged by the South Africans and unreported from Angola because of their deep suspicions of the West and the Western press. Suspicions harboured since a mercenary army tried to stem the Angolan revolution at the height of a chaotic civil war 5 years ago. The white flotsam of that war is washed up here in Sao Paulo prison in the Angolan capital, Luanda. At the height of that civil war, a South African flying column came close to installing a pro-Western UNITA government in power in Luanda. But that attempt also failed, and UNITA is now reduced to pockets of resistance in the south, still dependent on the South Africans. But in the years since the Marxist victory in Angola, the conflict on this border has intensified, not diminished. SWAPO guerrillas fighting to wrest Namibia from South African control have stepped up their attacks, and the Angolan government states that these guerrillas will continue to receive aid and refuge across the border in southern Angola. The checking of SWAPO is a major South African preoccupation, all along the border, including the strategic Caprivi Strip. The allegation is that the South Africans have based an undercover task force here, with its bases at Buffalo and Runtu.
It's probably the hottest border in Africa. Yet for their part, the South Africans very rarely acknowledge that they're fighting here at all. And on the Angolan side, TVI is the first Western television team to be allowed into the area in years.
We flew to the south aboard a Soviet Mi-8 helicopter. For this journey at least, its rocket pods unarmed. The bulk of Angolan weaponry is Soviet-made, and certainly the continuing presence of a Cuban expeditionary force calls Angolan independence into question. But it was put to us that the Cubans would leave when the South African threat was removed, and we saw no evidence of direct foreign participation in the present conflict with the South Africans. Indeed, the Angolans take some pride in not being entirely in the Soviet camp. The command helicopter that accompanied us towards the front was a French-built Lama. But the South Africans enjoy complete air superiority, and Angolan military planes fly near the border at their peril. So our journey south continued by road, escorted by truck-mounted anti-aircraft batteries to protect us from South African strafing raids. We travelled from the provincial capital of Lubango to conduct our own investigations in the border areas where South African military activity is at its most intense. As we got nearer the border, we picked up a more elaborate army escort. Our military liaison officer, a white Angolan, one of a number in important military positions. At Angolan government bases, the nearest they get to air defence radar is a man up a tree with a decent view of the bush. And reports from up ahead of South African ground activity caused the convoy to stop.
We stopped for security reasons because the South African forces are now south of KwaMatu, where we are going to. So we must know exactly what's going on for your own safety and protection.
How close are South African troops from KwaMatu?
A que distância é que eles estarão do KwaMatu?
Bom, neste momento, só a informação da sua movimentação, né? Está-se a trabalhar no sentido de concretizar onde é que eles se encontram.
In this moment, we only know that they are south of KwaMatu, but we don't know how far.
We plunged on to a large stockade in the bush, which 10 days ago had been a company-strength Angolan army base, now destroyed and deserted. This is the scene of the latest South African incursion, KwaMatu. It's still a good 20 miles inside Angola, and from all the evidence we've seen, it was definitely an Angolan army base, rather than a SWAPO guerrilla camp. But the Angolans say that they're certain that these attacks are not based on faulty South African intelligence. The South Africans know what they're doing. They're aimed either at discouraging official Angolan support for SWAPO or actually at destabilising the left-wing government in Luanda. Either way, it's a particularly aggressive policy towards Black Africa. The South Africans arrived by helicopter after the area had been extensively wrecked by men of Trevor Edwards's 3-2 Battalion. 3 days of fighting led to an Angolan withdrawal from the base, but the engagement was costly. But an official South African statement issued to us this evening insisted that their forces crossed the Angolan border only in hot pursuit and only against SWAPO guerrillas. The Angolans told us that they had shot down 4 helicopters and 2 Impala jets over Kwamatu, but the claim seemed to us wildly exaggerated. We were shown only this wreckage from Mirage and Impala jets, all last year's Angolan successes. I asked a young Angolan lieutenant about South African radio reports that Russian troops had been defending Kwamatu.
Os sul-africanos dizem que aqui se defendia a cidade dos russos. Isso para nós constitui uma grande vitória.
If South Africans say that this position was defended by Russian soldiers, that is a great victory for us.
The nastiest memento of the South African withdrawal, grenades primed as a booby trap. Through 2 interpreters, Portuguese and Ovambo, I asked this man whether it had been a SWAPO base.
They say that there were no SWAPO bases here. That this time South Africans attack a FAPLA position.
That's an Angolan government army position.
Yes, and that they usually attack civilian population. And they massacre civilian population, usually when they do cleaning operations.
The killing grounds of southern Angola. In their statement tonight dismissing the allegations, the South African authorities said that next week they were taking foreign journalists to the operational areas of northern Namibia. They did not specify whether the trip would include the 3-2 Battalion base at Buffalo, nor whether journalists would be meeting officers and men of that unit.